3. Hello everybody. In this video we're going to review some ways that we can create curves in Maya, as well as look at a couple new ways that we can use. So going to my front viewport, the first thing I'm going to do is go to Create Curve Tools, and I'm going to select the Pencil Curve tool. And here is my Nurbs curve. There are some disadvantages to working this way. To me, the biggest disadvantage is, well, that the curve is a bit messy looking. And it's also created out of multiple spans, in this case 134 spans at 3 degrees. This makes it a little bit difficult to work with because we have so many points in here. Despite the disadvantages to this method of creating Nurbs curves, we can still get it to work for us. Again, if we take a look at it in the attribute editor, you'll see that it is composed of multiple spans, 134 at 3 degrees. However, we can simplify this curve by going to Curves, Rebuild. Opening up its tool settings, we can set it to whatever number of spans we want. It's going to default to 4 if you reset the tool, as I have just done. 4 spans is not going to be enough. If I apply that, you'll see that that doesn't give us nearly enough spans to create this nice Nurbs curve that's going to say neon. But we could try other numbers. This will take a little bit of exploration. I could try, for instance, 32, which probably also will not be enough, but let's see. And actually, I kind of like that. 32 spans. You can see that we brought that down considerably from what it was before. And the benefit of this is that we get some nice smooth curves, which we can then more easily adjust and refine to get the curve that we want, which is what I'm doing now. In case you're wondering, I'm simply using my arrow key to go through the different control vertices systematically as I go and refine this curve and make it a little bit nicer. Now, there are times when, after simplifying the curve, I might find I still need to add more detail in some places where I don't have, let's say, the control vertices to be able to do so. In which case, I can always add more in here. I'm going to select these two edit points, and I will go to Curves, Insert Knot, Between Selections, and I'll add one in between these two, and I will also add another one between these two. Now, if I come in here to my control vertices, if I want to make the O of my sign a little bit more rounded, I can more easily do so because I have the geometry that will allow me to do that. Another way, of course, that I could create my Nurbs curve would be to go to Create Curve Tools and use my CV Curve tool. This will allow me to create my Nurbs curve initially with much fewer points than the pencil tool did earlier. And of course, once again, I can go into its control vertices and further refine it. And yet another way that we've looked at in previous videos is using the type tool. So the type tool can be found under Create, Type. You can come over here into the attribute editor and type the text that you desire. In this case, I'll stick with neon. And you can select the font you wish to use. It'll use the fonts that are installed on your computer. You can check out the different fonts and find one that you like. And when you settle on a font, because currently this is actually, if we take a look at it, it is actually a Polygon object, but I want to convert it to a Nurbs curve. So with my type selected, I'll return to Type. Under Geometry, I will go to Create Curves from Type. And this will give me some Nurb curves, which you can see are nested inside this group here. I'm going to delete this polygon geometry so that you can better see the Nurbs curves that this has generated. I think there are advantages to all three approaches. Personally, for the neon sign assignment, I oftentimes prefer the hand-drawn lettering because I actually like the aesthetic of it being a little less perfect, more hand-drawn than the approach where we use fonts. But for you, you should choose whatever works best for the design that you have in mind. I'm going to select all of my Nurbs curves here, and I will go to Generate, Curve Utilities, Attach Brush to Curves. This will apply a brush stroke to these curves. This is all review from previous video. Remember that you can select the brush stroke, and then in the attribute editor over here, you can go to the default brush tab and change the brush width to the desired width that you want. In this case, I think I'll set it to 0.1. Also remember that you can go to the stroke shape tab here if you need to increase the density of it or decrease the density of the stroke here. And here's what I have. I'm going to go ahead and select this other curve as well, and I will increase its brush width. And I'll do the same to these. Now this gets a little complicated here because this is composed out of a number of different curves here. They're a little hard to see with the strokes on top of them, but if I were to hide those strokes, you'll see that this is composed of a number of different curves. Which results in a number of different strokes. That's perhaps one of the disadvantages to using the fonts here, because I cannot select all of these strokes at once and increase their brush width. If I increase it to 0.1 like I did on the others, you'll see that it in fact only applied it to one of these brush strokes. So I actually need to come in here to these other strokes as well and change them individually. Another little bit of review from previous videos. Remember that these are not polygon meshes. Currently, they are strokes. They're brush strokes, as indicated here in the outliner. I want them to be polygon objects because it'll make it a little easier for working with later on. So I'll select them. I'll select all of the strokes. I will come over here to Modify, Convert, Paint effects to polygons. I do encourage you to make sure that you have quad output checked, and then you can apply. It didn't look like anything changed here. However, these are now polygon objects, which will make working with them a little bit easier for us. I'm now going to go to my hypershade. Again, this will be review. I will make a blend, which will be my neon sign. Of course, I can adjust this. I'm going to go ahead and apply the blend to these meshes before I do anything else, I think. So I'll go ahead and apply it. Here's what I have. The nice thing about the blend is that it comes with some properties for adjusting, such as the eccentricity, as well as the specular roll-off, so that we can make this look like it's actually composed or made out of glass. We can change the color. However, for our neon sign, what we actually will do is have the color come from the incandescence primarily, so that's why I've made the color channel here darker. I'll come in here to the incandescence, change that to red. If I want, I can change the specular color here as well. I could make that a, let's say, lighter red, or any other color that I want on my color wheel here. Maybe I'll go with something a little more blue, like that. Now if we render this out, and for rendering I'm going to be using Maya software. If I render it out, this is what it looks like. It's looking pretty good. However, we might want to add this special effect here, the glow intensity, which I'll just adjust, give it a small value, and we'll try rendering that out. So that's largely review from previous videos. In the next video, we'll take a look at some ways that we can create some curves in other software that we can bring into Maya and use.